I am tired as shit. I said that my sleeping schedule was fixed. It's not. So my hair's being oiled and I just got some TikToks out or recorded. But either way, I have some things I want to talk about today. Or mainly one thing, I guess. Maybe it'll bleed into a couple of others. But title of the video, age means nothing, personal development means everything. I find, and maybe you've found, as you grow into an adult, most adults, they're just adults. They haven't grown at all, right? And with becoming an adult, it makes a lot of people feel superior. And that's all they want to touch is a superiority complex. Okay. But at the end of the day, if you don't learn, if you don't read, if you don't look at other perspectives, what are you doing? Like, where are you going? It's no personal development, especially when it comes to who you're hanging around with, right? Are you hanging around people who want to learn and want to travel, want to experience things? I mean, there's different ways of gaining new perspectives. A lot of people like to travel. I don't. I'm not a very big traveler right now. I don't know if that'll change in the future. But many times, a lot of people stay friends with other people within their communities. Maybe they're people who they grew up with, and they all stay the same. They don't help each other grow. They enable each other to stay the same. And maybe they encourage each other to do things within the normal boundaries of what we're all taught to do. Oh yeah, like have kids, settle in with that person, they're good for you, type of thing. But do they encourage you to go to school and get your degree? Do they ask about your research, right? Do they ask about your worldly view? I don't think very many people have a worldly view. And maybe not everybody's meant to have one. But it's just, it gets to a point where not having some sort of perspective, it then sets us up to where it's like, oh, well, maybe we don't have a certain amount of empathy that we at least should have for the fellow human beings who live on this planet with us. Do you get what I'm saying? It's very interesting. I was thinking all of this, and I wrote all of this down in my notes yesterday when I was listening to my friend's iMessage voice notes. Voice notes is what they're called. And, you know, he is so smart. Master's degree, right? Teacher, coworker of mine at the university. Very smart guy. I love when we get to talking. I love having drinks because we encourage each other. We encourage each other to talk about certain discussions. Lately, there are certain tactics that are being used, at least on me and my videos on TikTok, where people are automatically shutting down the conversations using certain tactics. But that's just the essence of like people being super fans of people and then using any sort of line of discourse to shut down the conversation, especially when that conversation is not giving praise to their fave. I think that's harmful. I think we as human beings who are adults and we're supposed to be mature and a little more developed, we should be able to have conversations even if, you know, it's like, oh, I love that person. This person's critiquing them. Why would you get defensive? It's just like you don't know these people. Do you know what I mean? And it's a sort of defensiveness and it's unproductive. And I think a lot of this happens on the internet because that's what conservatism has pushed. That's what the conservatives have pushed. There is obviously big differences of definitions of what conservative and conservatism and conservatives themselves are. It's like, what are they conserving at this point? Because these people who stand for certain things, it's like maybe they don't stand for everything on that side, but they're still, you know, lifting that side up to do things that are harming different groups. Do you get what I'm saying? So, you know, who knows? But on the internet, there are certain owners, and there's this agenda that's being pushed on the internet where there's a lot of hate, there's a lot of arguments, there's a lot of unproductive bots on the internet. And I saw some guy talking about how you don't need to be interacting with bots because there are literally people being paid to sit in labs to comment bot ass comments, right? They're being paid to divert the conversation. You got to delete them, you got to block them. And it opened up a little more because, as I talk about on every single video, I'm always working on not interacting with these people. But that really opened my brain to where it's like, these people are just saying things to create stress and resentment within everybody. It's like, oh, let me just, you know, put this comment on there. Somebody's going to get mad at it and interact with me. And then it's going to be like a distraction and we'll be able to deviate from whatever this person's saying. That opened my eyes a little bit more. Okay, so yeah, but like I was saying, conservatism. The majority of the internet is conservative. It is. Look at Twitter. Look at that app. Look at Instagram. I'm sorry, I don't interact with very much, if at all, conservative things. Why is that on my For You page or Explore page on Instagram? Why are trad wives and anti-feminism accounts on my Explore page on Instagram? It doesn't make any sense. And a lot of people want to sit there and say, oh, well, that's what you interact with. Not on Instagram, I'm not. I really am not. Like, yes, I have what I interact with, which are like Britney Spears edits, you know, edits of other people I shall not name at this time. And then trad wife stuff. And then stupid ass, you know, dating shows where it's like people stand around and balloons are being popped. It's like, I don't interact with that bullshit. But it's being pushed out to all of us because it gets people mad. Do you know what I'm saying? It bothers people. And I think that the leaders, they want us mad at our phones instead of focusing our attention and understanding where we should be mad at, what we should be mad at, who we should be upset with, type of thing. So, you know, progressives are the minority. When it comes to conservatism, the internet, majority of it is conservative because there are a lot of men on the internet who, lo and behold, they're hateful, right? They identify the most with conservatism because in my opinion, I just think that they want to punish women, and voting conservative is how they do that. And then you have children. Children, they lean more conservative because that's what their parents are. That's what a lot of their parents teach them. And so a lot of like the racist bots that you see on TikTok and all of that stuff, I think it's children. Like, I really do. I think it's children behind bot accounts knowing that they can act like that and get away with it. Like, nobody's gonna, you know, take a picture with them or a video of them doing this and trace them back and it's like, oh, you're not going to college. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like, and when I'm saying this, I'm thinking of some people on Omegle, I think it was. And I don't know who it was, but this guy was, you know, doing whatever, however Omegle works. And these two little girls, maybe they are 14 to 11 years old. And she comes up and they speak a couple of words together and she ends up saying the N word. I think hard R. And he ends up saying, I think he takes off his mask or something. And she's like, oh my God, I know you. You're recording me. And that's when she crashes out. She had been saying that word though. You can tell when people continuously say these words. And then they, what? Oh, they said it, that was their first and only time saying it on video? No, they say that a lot. It's in their regular vocabulary. But that's what these kids are doing. This is the behavior that they're participating in. Because it's what they learn, especially from the kids around them, right? This is exactly why I wouldn't want to have babies unless I knew that I was able to homeschool them. And that's why I don't want to have children so early, because I need to be educated so that I could homeschool them. I don't think you should homeschool kids when you only have a high school education. I don't want to set my kids up for failure. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that everybody in that position does that, but I think going to college, it teaches you a lot. It teaches you how to research. It teaches you how to think for yourself, right? A lot of the texts that are read, they're unbiased, right? And that's what kind of, the book that I'm reading right now for my class, so unbiased. And it annoys me a little bit because I'm biased. I believe that, we should have empathy for each other. But that book, it's interesting, but it is very unbiased. And that's how college is, right? The right will sit there and say, college is biased and it brainwashes you and blah, 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 blah. No, it's just teaching you what happened. It's teaching you how to research, how to critically think, how to analyze things. You get what I'm saying? It does. Like, bottom line. And a lot of people do get mad at that. And don't get me wrong, many people are going to go to college and still be racist and still lack empathy, right? And still not be able to think for themselves and still be for the oligarchy. There are going to be many people who are just like that, because some people are just bad people. But if all of us had access to education in a way where we didn't have to deal with certain barriers, debt, time, basic necessities, and, working for those, and that being overpriced, if we didn't have to worry about those barriers and all of us were getting educated, the majority of us would sit there and wake up a little bit more, at least. The majority of us would sit there, gain more perspectives, and be like, wow, that's crazy, right? It's obvious why the government doesn't want that to happen, right? It's very obvious why school is so inaccessible, and they're trying to make it more inaccessible right now for a reason. And they want to sit there and say, oh yes, that money is going elsewhere. Where is it going? It's not going to go to the states for the education, because if anything, the states, they were literally like more corrupt. That's why the federal Department of Education had to blanket. It's like, you got to have like a certain standard. We got to have certain standards, right? Bottom line. Now that's being dissipated. The effort is, being made. It's also a message that's being sent, right? It's a little bit disheartening, especially when you see a lot of people justifying it. You can tell a lot of people who are justifying it, they're either reiterating what they've been told, they're just regurgitating words that they've heard, they don't even know what they mean, or they're trying to pull up the ladder after they got up. I got my education. I don't care if anybody else does. That's weird. That's selfish. But hey, this is where we tie things into age means nothing. Personal development means everything, right? Some of the oldest people in our country, they're ruling our country. Have they had any personal development? I don't think so. These people are as old as, if not older, than Ruby Bridges. Do you know how taunted she was when she was going to school? Do we really think that the people that were taunting her, which are obviously alive right now, how much did these people personally develop? We gotta ask these questions. And we have to ask, what did they do to personally develop? When they went to college, what did they study? Who did they end up donating? Because old people like that, they donate places. They're financially good, right? Especially white folk. So who are they donating to? What are they supporting? How are they voting? Personal development matters the most. Age, we should all be grateful to be aging, but you got to do the work. You got to do some sort of work while you're here. Why do we think our souls come here to this planet? It's been said that a lot of people, or like, I guess a lot of like spiritualists will sit there and say, you know, Earth, it's like an interesting place to come for souls, and there's like a wait list, and so many, you know, billions of souls are waiting, and you're so lucky to be here right now in your body. Very interesting perspective. But yeah, what are you doing here when you're here? Right now, we're just, you know, it seems like we're just suffering. We're having to pay for all of this stuff. We're having to work. It's like, okay, I feel that, right? I'm not the richest person ever, if at all. But I'm also, I don't know, I feel like it's also about being curious, trying to learn. I'd like to believe that the majority of our population is progressive, progressing towards a better society, or the yearn for it, right? I think a lot of people teeter in the middle because change is scary. That's why there's conservatism, because change is scary, right? But at the end of the day, there should be middle ground. Right now, there's just not a lot of middle ground, right? And a lot of our spaces, they are majority conservative, right? A lot of people who ride the line, they're just gonna go over to the conservative side because maybe it just seems like the easier choice right now. Do I agree with that? No, right? But I understand how this works because I'm trying to think about people who don't think like me. I'm becoming more aware that most people don't think the way that I think. And I'm assuming that if you're watching, you at least align with the way that I think a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm pretty, what is the word for it? Polarizing. It's like you really do either really like me or you don't like me at all. And I think there's a reason for that. I think it's because I am so, like, not set in the way that I am, because I do love change, but I know who I am, right? And when it comes to the people who ride the line between conservatism and progressiveness, and then they end up moving one way or the other, I can't relate, but I understand that the majority of the population does probably think that way. And they do probably look to others to see what's acceptable, right? And in all honesty, right now, we're leaning towards a more conservative society. People say that the pendulum swings, right? Once we go a little further left, we divert back to the right, and vice versa. Like, it's just, that's the way things go. It's happened, pattern recognition. It's happened over and over and over throughout history. It's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. And right now, I feel like there's a good way that people do this. And probably, like, when the pendulum was like getting ready to divert back to conservatism, was people utilizing the term extreme wokeness, right? Oh, all of this extreme wokeness and blah, blah, blah. Being woke means not being asleep. You being woke means that you're understanding what the government's doing, right? You're understanding what pieces of the puzzle are being set so that, you know, the leaders or whoever are getting the outcome that they want. You understanding that and being able to see those signs, right? People have kind of bastardized that term to mean, oh, they use it as an insult. That's an indication of the majority around you being conservative. And when you go towards that line, you end up leading yourself into fascism. Do you get what I'm saying? It's just like when you lack self-expression, when you want everybody to be in a specific box, when you want everybody to, you know, adhere and be clean, no self-expressing, no crazy, you know, even going to school, kids at school, it's like you can't dye your hair. You can't have any facial piercings. It's like distracting, okay, or is it, you know, the suppression of self-expression in the name of what will eventually be fascism, right? Uniforms, jail, right? Slavery is legal in jail here in the United States. So yeah, it's just something we got to think about. These things, we do have to think about them. I know a lot of people say we're not supposed to know about all of this, and we weren't ever supposed to know about the news and all of this stuff. And it's just like, okay, but we do now. Maybe we weren't, but we do now, because now there are people who are exploiting everybody, literally the 99%. There are people being exploitive of the 99%. And now we have the news so that we could know. That's not your sign to sit there and be like, we weren't really supposed to know all this. I'm just gonna, you know, take a step back and ignore the news. You know, protect your mental health. Have fun, right? Fun is protest, right? You gotta have fun still. But I mean, there's a reason we have the news. Why would we be given the opportunity to see everything? Maybe we're being tested. It's like, okay, let's give them the news, whether it be God or the universe or whatever you do or don't believe in. It's like, all right, now they have the news. What are they going to do? Oh, many of them are pretending it's not happening. It's like, no. Do you have empathy for these people or not? Are you going to do what you can to put a stop to that or not? Many people are choosing or not. They're sitting there and saying, well, it's really sad, but what can I do? You can do things, you can utilize your vote, right? You can put a little money towards some places, okay? You can boycott certain places. Boycotts do work, y'all. They really, really do. And the sad thing is that our news networks, they won't report on a lot of money stuff like that because they're keeping the knowledge of our power away from us, right? Away from the collective. It'll seep through if you don't ignore things, right? So, like I said, we have to think about these things. We gotta see, we can't just wait. Everybody's waiting to see. At some point, like, the collective just has to do. We gotta do things. We gotta create. We gotta talk. We gotta make friends. So, yeah, either way, I am so exhausted. I'm hoping I could go to sleep a little bit earlier tonight, but yeah, I really wanted to get this video recorded so that I could get it out and stay on schedule, because I've been bad with that, but now I'm getting way better. Yay! Now I need to fix my sleeping schedule and whatnot. But anyways, next time you'll see me, my nails will be done differently, probably shorter, more spring. But yeah, anyways, I shall see you on Friday.